see my little Sasquatch ornament. This is my new Sasquatch ornament, for those of you who might like to see. Thought I would give you a little window into my tree. Hi everybody. It's beautiful to be here with you. Let me get the camera situated. Hi, I'm Manorama, and this is Sanskrit Studies and Luminous Soul session. I send you all my love, seeing all the people that are joining in. Come on into the classroom. In my little home here, you're most welcome. Look, Kristen, I shined up the little beautiful gift you gave me of the swan, so you can see that. I have to shine it up again, I think. Gonna grab something. Hi everybody, sending you all my love. So if my cat scratches at the door, much love to all of you. It's me, Narayani Namostute. Hi everybody, I feel so much love. Shivani, mwah. Shambhavi. All my hearts, all my love. I also feel so loving to all of you guys. Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful opening reception. Jaya in the house. Okay, letting everybody come in. Hi, I'm gonna have a little water. Look at this flower, just as we're letting people get into the room. Look at this, isn't this gorgeous? Look how it's just blossoming open. I look at this every day and I just think, wow, hello. Okay, everybody. All my love, welcome to the class, to this Sanskrit Studies and Luminous Soul session. Today we're going to be talking about something very light and no big deal as usual, and it is working with doubts in your practice. Mwah. Working with doubts in your practice, so nothing major, right? Just some little, you know, I'm teasing when I say that. So the question that I was energizing on is, how do we work with doubts in our practice? And I wanted to give you guys some thoughts and a way that you can start to work with this concept and this idea. But first, welcome to my home, my little tiny abode. Did you get to see my tree? Check out this cute tree. And my little Sasquatch ornament. I don't know if you can see it, but here he is. I just got him from Nepal. I hope you could see that. It's nice to be in my tiny little kutir here in the Upper West with all of you. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so let's get started. Working with doubts in my yoga practice. How do we do this? What do we do to support ourselves in this? Well, I think, first of all, doubts are a part of life, right? So to some extent, doubts are healthy because they get us to pursue, my cat, I knew he was going to demand to come in. Come on in, Danny. Class is waiting for you. So I think that they're valid because they get us to pursue deeper. But on the other hand, too strong of a doubt in your practice or in anything that you're doing is going to create actually the very thing. It's going to plant a seed that actually is its undoing. So Guruji talks about it in his Fundamentals of Yoga book, and I have his book here and I can quote that in a moment. So actually, let me do that. Let me start there with Guruji's. It's in chapter 5, which is under the rules for the practice of yoga. In Guruji's, show you where this book, Fundamentals of Yoga. You can get this on Sanskrit Studies website, Fundamentals of Yoga. Okay, I'll hold it up a little longer. Some of you might want to see it. It's by Sri Brahmananda Saraswati, but when he was a doctor. So, come on up, Gandhi. Say hi to the group. Okay. So, Gurdjieff says here on page 25, what does he say? Gurdjieff says, one wave of the mind is always skeptical of everything. And this is, so he gives all these suggestions. Keep before the mind the fact that you have firmly decided to help yourself heal your consciousness and your division, believe in yourself, increase an atmosphere of expectancy and eliminate melancholy, enrich yourself with truths in a variety of ways. So he gives a lot of wonderful suggestions, and then, and he gives a lot of them. There's many, many. But here in number 14, one of the suggestions that he gives is he gives the suggestion that one wave of the mind is always skeptical of everything. So if it's a wave of the mind, every one of us has this wave. We all have this wave. But to greater or lesser extents. And we have to learn how to work with it so that it doesn't do what Gurdjieff's about to tell us that it does. He says, do not consider this wave as ordinary. It is not an ordinary wave. He says, try to solve it in a right way through your practice and through an instructor's help. Otherwise, this doubt and skepticism will wreck your performance in yoga. Then he goes on to say, here or hereafter, there is no success or happiness when we have skepticism. Always, from the beginning of your practice, that skeptic within you will try to create doubt and suspicion. But after a few days of practice, these mental waves will be the first to applaud your success in concentration. So what I want you to do is start to think about doubt as, I was thinking about this today because I was working with a student and she works with doubt quite a bit, and I've had this with many students, and having worked with this in my own practice, doubts about certain things, and then having gone more deeply into it. Go ahead, Gandhi, you can go down. I have a very strange cat. He likes to chew plastic. It's like my weird little son thing. So anyway, so one of the things that you want to do is recognize that doubt comes from a lack of connection with oneself. Skepticism is about, at its core, it's a lack of connection with oneself. And try not to move defensively with that, but consider it for a minute. It really boils down to a lack of trust within oneself. So the question becomes, how do I build greater trust with myself? When you're working with doubt in your practice and in your life, it's about building trust with yourself. It's like somewhere along the line you learned to survive by disconnecting from yourself. It's not an unusual strategy. It's a strategy that many people adopt. And in Luminous Soul, we learn rather than to disconnect from ourselves as a survival strategy, we learn how to actually connect more deeply with ourselves, or with the self, or the various aspects of self, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and of course the spiritual. So the more that you are able to connect with yourself, the more you are bridging the doubt. Doubt happens when the insight, it's very hard to have a lot of insight when we are so mistrustful of ourselves. Then we don't trust the insight. We don't trust the wisdom, because it's like when you make a new friend. You don't know them yet. You're testing them out. They're testing you out. Maybe it's in a dating context, but eventually a friend shows their colors. They show you if they're going to be a friend who is there for you or not there for you. And I don't mean that like, either you're there or you're not. I'm not talking about absolutes. Candy is standing right there. But I'm talking about knowing when someone really has the capacity to be there for you. And it has to do with, again, guess what? The relationship with themselves. So I invite you, as you explore the topic of how do I work with doubts in my yogic practice, to instead of look, I think a lot of times we look to see like, is this person good enough that my doubt should be allayed? Or is this, what's another thing? Like we look to see like, is the teacher good enough? Or is the subject good enough? Or is the something outside of ourselves? But what I'm suggesting today in this Sanskrit Studies Luminous Soul session is that you actually want to turn it around and turn it towards yourself in the context of, how can I get more connected with myself so that I can stay close to the feeling that I have when I'm in contact with that? So that when I'm in contact with a teacher, I feel myself, and that intuition will guide me, and that intuition will support me in my development. Or what's another example? I'm reading a text, but because I have contact with myself, because I have developed trust in being close and connected with myself, that I read it, and then I'm able to kind of slowly feel my feet underneath me and process the information little by little. So I think at the core of doubt is a lack of self-trust. And a lack of self-trust is going to translate around us. So the first thing to get curious about in terms of a question is, how do I develop greater trust with myself? And like that. Let's see if there's any questions before we go to the next piece. It's kind of a big piece, you know? It's kind of a big piece to take in. Any questions? I'll wait for you. Do you suggest working with fear in the same way? This is from Shambhavi. Can you say more? Which fear? There's several different types of fears. Say a little bit more about that. What type of fear? Because skepticism and doubt are a kind of fear. Waiting to see what you will write in on the field. It's like the Akashic records. Suddenly a question appears. Insecurities. Well, everybody at some point in their life has had insecurities, because the universe makes sure that we all are working with our humanity. Can you be a little more specific about which types of insecurities? Shambhavi, what kind of insecurities are you talking about? Like, when I feel insecure about myself in relation to my body, men, my practice. What are we talking about? But essentially, well, let me see what you have to say. Discerning when something is intuition or doubt and fear in a romantic relationship. There, boom, much more clear and is useful for everybody. I'm sure nobody wants to know that. Well, okay, good question. I do recommend you do something very similar. And I want to say this. It's so funny. I just wrote this today. I wrote a whole post about the difference between intuition and paranoia. And you guys will be getting that in 2016, that post and so forth. But in any event, so that's going to really depend on your trust in yourself, because paranoia comes from a disconnect with oneself, whereas, and it comes from like an over attendance to fear, and a kind of like, I gotta keep watch. They're out to get me. They're out to get me. Whereas intuition has a strength and a calmness about it, and I can tell you this, when it comes to intuition, there's nothing pushing forward. There's no agenda. Intuition is its own value. It rises like information, and it doesn't demand to be used. It doesn't push in any way on a subtle psychic level. Intuition just reveals itself, whereas paranoia has a kind of a push underneath it. It's like, gotta watch out, gotta be careful, right? So if it's gotta watch out, gotta be careful, or if it's if it's got a push underneath it, to an action, to an end, to protect you, then usually it is paranoia, or a kind of a version of it. Paranoia might be a strong word, but it's fear that's not serving you. Rather, in that instance, you want to listen to what the fear is, what it's telling you, and then learn how to communicate that if it needs to be communicated, or let it go if it needs to be let go of. Does that answer your question, or do you have a follow-up, Shambhavi? You're welcome. Most welcome. Okay, so any other questions regarding doubt and skepticism and how to work with that in your practice? Even if you just were driving down the street and you got curious, how do I develop trust with myself? That is enough of a takeaway for today, for you to say, wow, doubt at its root is a lack of trust in myself. Because when I don't trust myself, the last thing on earth I'm going to do is trust somebody else. I mean, that's madness. If you're not to be trusted, nobody's to be trusted, right? But and that comes from, that will evolve for a person through a variety of experiences, okay? Ones that make a person feel mistrustful. But we are conscious beings. We are working to evolve ourselves here. We are yogis in training, and therefore we take the life as an evolving field. And what was useful for us, maybe disconnection or maybe paranoia to keep myself safe when I was much younger, is not necessarily the skill that you need when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s, whenever you have this realization where you have more strength underneath you and you say, oh, I don't need to have paranoia be the thing that supports me. Now I need greater connectivity with myself, and then I extend out from that place, right? That's the kind of solid ground that you have in yourself. And that solid ground is built by your practice and by spending more time with yourself. What would you recommend as a first step to work with doubt and fear? This is from Atmika. What would you recommend as a first step to work with doubt and fear? I would recommend, just what I'm telling you now, great question, Atmi, to spend some time walking down the street and asking yourself one thing, what is my relationship to trusting myself? And if your response is like, I don't even know what that means it's pretty distant from you, okay? So that means that your next step is to take a deep breath and go, how can I bridge that? Get curious. How can I bridge greater trust with myself? And it will never show up as a kind of arrogance. It's never going to be like, I trust myself. That's never going to reveal a relationship to self. I've got cat hair on me. But it's a quiet, knowing connectedness that is going to be a what is, and it's going to reveal itself. So a first step is, it's my relationship. Just get curious about that. See if anything else comes to me. Just getting curious about that question alone can have a big impact on you, to open up the next questions that are on the field. Hello, Mitty. My other cat. Um, let's see if there's anything else that I can think of. I can tell you this, that another thing is to notice when you feel kind of clipped energetically. That's going to signal that you're having a little bit of a paranoia, whereas intuition is a turning inward where you feel grounded. So you can pay attention to that in your practice as well. Do I feel grounded, or am I feeling kind of like, that's a kind of and I think we all, whoever's on this call, we've all felt paranoia at one point in our lives, sure that we knew something that we didn't really know. And then there's other times when I believe all of us have had contact with our intuition, and I think it is the purview of yoga, certainly of Luminous Soul, to develop and hone that capacity to be able to turn in and to learn how to work with our intuition on a much deeper level. Any last questions? I'll have a sip of water while we're waiting. You're welcome, Agni. Love you. So if you don't have Guruji's Fundamentals of Yoga book, this is a great place to start to try to work with your practice. You're going to have to read this several times. I gave the book Nada Yoga, another one of Guruji's books, to a man recently in my building, and when I saw him the last time, he said, I've read it, but I think I got to read it again. And that made me giggle. I said, yeah, read it again. And I smiled. I said, maybe read it about 8 more times. See if you have any questions, let me know. He said, it seems really something to really understand the whistle. He calls Nadam the whistle, which makes me giggle, and I think it's so sweet. So when you get this book, or if you have this book already and you start to take a look at it again with the eyes that you have at the point of December 2015, because you're always coming to something from a new perspective, from a new place in yourself, read it again. See what else opens up for you. See what new subtle nuance in practice starts to make more sense to you. Okay. Couple of upcoming events. I'm going to be in Colorado this coming weekend teaching on Nada Yoga. I'm doing a Nada Yoga workshop and a workshop on the gods and goddesses at Root Yoga tradition. So I look forward to seeing those of you who are able to make it there. That's going to be amazing for me to be out in Colorado again. I just love being out there. And then I'll be back. I have satsang at Jivamukti, the last satsang of the year. Then I start in the new year. My tour next year is going to be focused on forgiveness. Nothing major, right? And I'm sure none of us have any work to do to that effect. But I think it's a big topic, and I think it's important for us to consider how do we free up ourselves and work with the process, in a very direct process of forgiveness. So that's going to be on the boards. I have a live in-person class at West 10th Street with very limited registration options for live in-person. But then after that, so that'll be, did I say July 1st? I think, anyway, January 1st, obviously, New Year's Day. You can check the website for information. And then I have my annual retreat. I know I have a flyer somewhere here. Here it is. I have my annual retreat happening, the I Am Luminous retreat in New York City. If you'd like to join me, just visit sanskritstudies.org. It's March 11th to the 13th, 2016. You'll have an opportunity to study some aspect of the Luminous Soul pillars, and then also to gather with Luminous Soul students in the community, as well as there's ample time for you to roam around New York City and take yoga asana classes at your favorite center, or to go and see New York more. So if you're interested in this, you can check this out on the website. I don't know what else except to say that it's been my pleasure to be here with all of you. I hope this gives you something that you can go on to continue developing your practice. The Sanskrit word of the week is called asanshaya. Asanshaya means without doubt. Yes, I'm coming to Vancouver in January. Is it January or February? I can't remember. Check the website. I can't wait. I'll be out in, what is it called? Whistler? And I can't wait to be out there too, and I'll make announcements about that. February 19th to the 21st. Definitely, if you're out in that area, check it out. It looks beautiful where I'm going to be. So you're all most welcome to join me if you want to catch me live out there. And that's about it for today. I did a little holiday decorating so you can see my tree. Check it out. It's like this sweet little tree. And I even have little presents under the tree. Be blessed, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And think about what I'm talking about. Let that be your first step. I love you all. Be blessed, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I send you my love. Bye, everybody. Love you. Be blessed.